Today on YesterKitchen, we are going to make my childhood memory from my book, Every Dish Has a Story, straight out of one of my favorite amusement parks ever. You're going to love it. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Jill and this is YesterKitchen. If you're new here, welcome. It would be an honor to have you join us as we explore retro history through food. Except today, this series is going to be a little bit different, but I'm back in my Idaho kitchen. Oh my God, it's so good to be home. I have all my stuff that I have missed, and I'm just super happy. So welcome back to Idaho, even though I know you saw my video last week, where I shared my book, Every Dish Has a Story. When I was a kid, treasured childhood food memories and their recipes. And the book is 100% full of beautiful, beautiful people's stories of the one dish that brings them back to their childhood. This took me a year and a half. I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited. And wow. Okay, so if you saw my video last week, you saw me unboxing all of these and oh my God, what a moment that was. Thank you for sharing it. And that was right outside, right in my front yard. Oh, if you missed it, I'll put it up there. Anyway, so starting now for the next few weeks, I am going to be doing my episodes highlighting one recipe each week from the book. So we have some cooking creators here on YouTube that are in this book. They're going to be sharing their videos of their childhood food memories. They're just going to be doing the recipes. The stories are phenomenal, heartwarming, beautiful. So the link is down below so you can read the story that goes along with the recipe. But we're just going to do the recipes, and today I am starting with my childhood story because it's in there, and I share quite a bit about myself. So today, one of my childhood memories, oh my God, is from an amusement park in Buena Park, California called Knott's Berry Farm. I actually did a video from the same cookbook. This is my 1975 Knott's Berry Farm cookbook. I did boysenberry pie out of here forever ago, not even knowing I'd be writing a book. So I'll put that up there for you too, so you can make the boysenberry pie, which is outstanding. But today is all about pioneer stew. There used to be a steakhouse at Knott's Berry Farm called sometimes called the steakhouse, sometimes called the Indian steakhouse. I go into all of that in the book. But every single time as a little girl, when I would go with my daddy to Knott's Berry Farm, which was pretty often, I couldn't wait to go to dinner at this steakhouse and have this very stew. It's really just your basic beef stew, but it's delicious and it's my memories. So let's get started. Okay, so from 1976, because that's the date of our cookbook, which my dad bought this book for me at Knott's Berry Farm back in 76. It's a treasure, absolute treasure. Okay, so we're gonna start with a big Dutch oven. And to that, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of neutral oil. You can go canola, you can go vegetable. And we're just gonna let that warm up for just a second. Okay, so one thing about the recipe I'm making for you today, I'm actually making half the recipe. Well, for most of the ingredients, because the original recipe makes 8 to 10 servings, and it's just hubby and I, so I really don't need that much stew. So I'm gonna put the full recipe down below. The full recipe is also in the book. I know, I can't stop showing you. But I'm only making half of the ingredients for some of the things, and I'll explain why as we go, because I just love the gravy. So mostly the gravy stuff, I'm gonna be making the full amounts. So into our oil, the recipe calls for 2 onions. I only have 1, and I just thinly sliced it because that was my memory. You can cut the onions however you like. The directions say sliced. They don't specify thick or thin. So do what you want, because no matter what, you're gonna have an amazing, amazing tasting stew. We have 3 cloves of garlic, which is in the recipe, but garlic, right? And I know a lot of you say, and it's chopped or minced. A lot of you say the past doesn't use enough garlic. I agree. When I cook on my own, I use a lot more, but I always love to make the original recipe and share that with you. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and cook these down for a little bit. I'm gonna say maybe about 5-8 minutes, so we'll be back. Okay, so our onions are soft. One of my favorite smells is onions and garlic cooking, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, I probably have. Hubby hates onions, so I can never really cook with them unless I'm doing my shows. So thank you for letting me cook onions. Okay, so as you can see, we have beautiful soft onions in here. Stew meat. We have, the recipe calls for 4 pounds. I've got 2. You can buy beef stew meat in your market that's just like this, already, which is exactly what this is, already cut and ready to go. But if you want to cut your own, chuck roast is the best for beef stew, and you just cut them into cubes like this. So all we're doing, no flour, no anything, we're just putting our beef in here, and we're gonna let this brown. So that's gonna take another few minutes. So the steakhouse has a very long history, which of course is in the book. Sometimes this stew at some point was called steakhouse beef stew. Sometimes it was called pioneer beef stew. When I went, it was called pioneer beef stew, which is exactly why I call it that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and cook this for a little bit. I'll let you know how long when we get back. You just want the meat browned. That's it. You can even turn up your heat if you want. We'll be back. Okay, so it's been, I don't know, maybe about 6-7 minutes. And I've just been stirring this around because you really just want the outside of the meat to get brown. You're not cooking it through. It's gonna sit and cook. So really quick, a couple show notes for you. I have so many episodes from Palm Springs still ready to go. So I put those on hold so I can do all the recipes from my book. So when we get done with Idaho and we get done with all these recipes, we're going back to Palm Springs. We're gonna finish those because you're gonna love, oh my God, I have so many great vintage retro recipes already done. I already have some plans for you. Okay, I have a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. That's the recipe. I'll probably use like maybe a little more than half. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pour some in and just see how it looks. You know what, there's not a whole lot left. So we're just gonna stir our tomatoes around, and now into that goes all the good stuff. A cup of red wine. Yes, I am using a full cup. I'm using Cabernet Sauvignon, which is what I like, but use what I like. Don't use wine that's just, you really don't like the flavor, but it's cheap because you're just gonna get that cheap wine flavor. Okay, into there, it says 1 bay leaf of the recipe. I have 2 because they're small, but 1 is fine. 1 tablespoon of chopped fresh parsley. Yeah, you can go a little bit more. It's parsley. A teaspoon of salt, half teaspoon of fresh ground pepper if you can. And then we're gonna give it a stir. This absolutely speaks to my childhood. I actually have 2 recipes in there from my childhood. The other, I've already done a video on years ago, didn't even know I'd be writing a book. And that would be Laurie's cream spinach from Laurie's the Prime Rib restaurant. I'll put that up there so you can see my other one. Okay, and the last ingredient for now is 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. We are going to stir all that up. Oh God, it smells so good. And 12-year-old Jill is getting so excited right now. Because like I said, the restaurant doesn't exist. But you can still have your memories, can't you? Now we're gonna go ahead, cover it up. We're gonna let it simmer for an hour. Then we're gonna add more delicious things. But in the meantime, you're gonna need some vegetables. You're gonna need carrots, you're gonna need celery, you're gonna need potato, and you're gonna need to have them cooked. And we're gonna add those after our hour. So I'm just gonna leave you right now with here's how I did the vegetables, and I'll see you back in an hour. Hey everyone, here we are at the stove. I've got a medium large pan on medium high heat. I have about 3 carrots, about 1.5 pounds, and cut in, stew-sized chunks, just like that. I have, the recipe does call for 3 stalks of celery, and I am using 3 stalks of celery. I just wanted to fill it up with vegetables more, so it really is like a customizable ingredients. Anyway, 3 stalks of celery. What I do is I took the whole stalk, I sliced it down the center, and then I cut it into little pieces. And 1 Idaho, because we are in Idaho, but it doesn't have to be Idaho. 1 russet potato, cut into cubes. We're gonna add a cup of water. There we go. You don't want to cook it to mushy because it is gonna go back in the stew and cook with the meat. So we're gonna let this go till just, let's call it tender, but not firm. Okay, so I'm gonna give this about 10, 12 minutes. We'll be back. Okay, it has been maybe about 8 or 9 minutes and it's already done. So all you need to do to test is put a fork in it and you can feel how tender it is. Carrots too, celery too. You definitely want them tender but firm. I had a cover on the pot, but I didn't put it on all the way. I kept it like that much off so some of the steam could escape. for maybe about half the time. So you can put a cover, you don't have to put a cover. Really, it's all good. I got my trusty 1970s bowl. I'm back in Idaho and I have my bowl and I'm so happy about that. And all we're gonna do now, we're just gonna drain out the water. But that's what you do for the veggies. Let's get back to the stew. Okay, we're back with my childhood food memory from my book. I'm sorry, I gotta keep saying it because I still cannot believe I have a book. But and seriously, I have you guys to thank. If it wasn't for you guys inspiring me, there would be no book. So thank you. I was so excited that I just glossed right over them. But in addition to everything that went in the pot, there is 1 teaspoon of basil. So let's take a look because I want you to see why I use the full recipe for all the gravy stuff. Are you ready? Here we go. I'm gonna put it away just like that so that some of the steam can escape first. But look at this. It is just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So see, this is why, because you have so much gravy that this is made, that now you can have like noodles or whatever you want. I'm gonna turn the fire up a little bit, the heat. And I also wanna say that I did take out the 2 bay leaves. You always, when you put them in, you wanna put a little number somewhere if you use more than one, just so you know how many you need to fish out. You don't want your guests finding them. Okay, so you just saw what we do with the vegetables, and in they go. Now they're cooked, they're warm, so that's not gonna take a lot of time to cook these through. 16-ounce can of lima beans, 16-ounce can of corn. I'm just gonna use probably most of it. Yeah, I know fresh corn would probably taste so much better, but this is my childhood memory and this is the recipe. Do you want to use fresh corn? If you do, of course, use it. Okay, so these are the classic vegetables. This alone, I have the main ingredients and I can still probably feed 8 to 10. Maybe about another 10 minutes just so the canned vegetables can come up to temperature and the vegetables we just cooked will be all incorporated. We'll be right back and it'll be stew time. So I lied again. It's not 10 minutes, it's 20 minutes because you really want to give the meat a final chance to cook through. I just wanted to say that in this book, it's not a cookbook. It's a storybook with recipes. It's people's childhood food memories and the recipe that they're talking about. Every story is just beautiful and heartwarming, and it's really someone's memories. And my hope is that when you get this book, you will start going back in your mind and trying to think about the foods that you ate as a child and the memories that are associated with that. When I started interviewing people for the book, the very first main question that I asked was, what was the one dish that brings you back to your childhood? And that's what started it all. And then they would tell me and they would just start, the story would just unfold. And at the end I would get the recipe and it was just magic. So speaking of childhood food memories, this is mine. It takes me back to being 12 every single time I present to you Knott's Berry Farm Pioneer Stew. Look at that. Is this gorgeous or what? All the glorious vegetables. And as you can see, now that you can see it, slicing the onions really thin makes sense because they just kind of melt in there and work in there. All that's left to do is fill this bowl. And I guess hubby and I will be eating Pioneer Stew for quite a while, but like I said, you can put it over noodles, you can put it over mashed potatoes, even though there's potatoes in there. You can put it over whatever you like, or you can be a purist like me and just have it on its own. Oop, there's an onion dripping. And I am 12, having dinner with my daddy at Knott's Berry Farm. My daddy was a huge, huge influence in who I am today. And that's the story I tell in here. If you would like to explore more dishes from the past, or just your childhood, I invite you to subscribe. I release new videos every week. In the meantime, there's some more retro dishes for you. And remember, every dish, even Pioneer Stew from Knott's Berry Farm, has a story. Oh boy, does it have a story. I'll see you in the next video.